Alright, Sentinels fans, in this video, we're going to talk about the alternate character cards that came with Rook City Renegades for heroes released in the original Definitive Edition. So in this, we've got Stealth Suit Bunker, Haunted Fanatic, Werewolf Haka, Backdraft Raw, Scavenger Unity, and Detective Wraith. So we're going to talk about each of these different alternates and how they work with their deck coming up. First off, let's talk a little about Stealth Suit Bunker. So Stealth Suit Bunker comes with a drastically reduced amount of hit points, a much more fragile style of bunker rather than the usual 30-ish hit points. The power is Silent Running. Collect one ongoing card, you may play one card. So that got a little bit interesting trying this thing out. His deck doesn't have that many ongoings, but it has some really strong ones, and so it was really good to be able to collect them. Get the ones that you need early in the game, like getting a really early upgrade mode or recharge mode, and then you could really start ramping up faster into the game, and then you're able to later collect ongoings and then play a different card. It doesn't have to be the ongoing that you collected that you played here, which ends up being really strong. For the back here, we can see he's like destroying the stealth suit in a vat of acid there. Time to go loud. One hero takes their play phase, destroy one ongoing card, or one environment target deals 3 targets 2 fire damage each, destroy that environment target. That one's really strong, really useful if there are environment targets. Otherwise, the ability to destroy ongoings and play cards is also really good. So even if he gets knocked out, he's still a very powerful unit on the board. So how this power is going to really be interacting is you're going to be grabbing ongoings from your deck, right? So if you have a dangerous environment going on, or an environment that you don't want to end up playing cards, like you're playing against the organization and you don't want all of those henchmen to do their turn, playing a adhesive foam grenade is going to really save you. Then there's the ability to get his different modes, so you could pick up a turret mode, get into your hand, and then not play it this turn. I would play it the next turn because you already used a power to do that, but this could be a good way to set up the next turn, grabbing yourself turret mode if you don't already have it in your hand. Upgrade mode, of course, allowing you to play extra cards and summon cards. If you use that power right off the bat, play this card, you then get to summon a card, and then end phase you get to play 2 more cards. Really strong way to really set up fast and get a bunch of guns on the board that you can start loading your ordinances into. Or you get a recharge mode, put it down, and you just start drawing cards like mad, and are able to load up any of your existing guns. So those are the kinds of cards, really, that you're going to be going for. You're either going to be going for those upgrade modes, or adhesive foam grenades for the most part. There's the option to get something like the LiDAR Intel, but again, I don't think it's particularly useful, and he has a lot of powers that I would overuse instead of that one. So not a huge amount of ongoings in here. Not a huge amount of different ones. There's lots of ongoings, but they're mostly just repeats of the same ones over and over again. So that's the little limited options that you can really collect with this. But I still think it's really powerful to get that free play a card early in the game, as well as the ability to hunt down and get your cards. You have to play a lot more careful with this bunker than usual, and it's a little bit harder to get your guns in play if you didn't draw guns off the bat. If you didn't immediately get a gun or 2, this one can be really tricky because you're only able to gather ongoing cards. So that's how Stealth Suit Bunker is going to work for you in Rook City Renegades. Up next is Haunted Fanatic. So the very interesting thing about Haunted Fanatic is that it has 10 HP. That is a very special number in this deck, and we'll look at the deck a little bit later to talk about it, but this feels really risky to take it. Having 10 hit points is scary, and a power that says summon a relic card. Fanatic deals herself and one other target 1 fixed infernal damage each. So fixed damage, she can't resist it, and with that low hit points, dealing yourself damage feels risky. Flipping that over, she gets the powers of Unfinished Business. One hero takes their power phase, each hero draws 1 card, or each hero may discard 1 card and deal themselves 1 fixed infernal damage. Return Fanatic's deck to the game, shuffle it, draw 4 cards. Replace this card with another Fanatic character card, active side up, restoring it to 15 HP. So really, 25-ish HP if you think about it. With this power in mind, everybody takes 1 damage to bring you back as one of the other Fanatics. So after her haunted body releases her soul, it can repossess a different form of Fanatic and re-enter the fray, which is pretty cool and a way to get this low hit point unit back into the fray. This is a really risky character to play against bosses that often hit the lowest health target. If you don't have somebody that can summon targets to take the hits, she's going to go down really fast. But if you're familiar at all with Fanatic's deck, a lot of her cards are all about that 10 HP that we're talking about here. So starting at 10 HP, then if Fanatic is at 10 or fewer HP, deals extra damage. Then if Fanatic is at 10 or fewer HP, use up to 2 powers. There are just constant cards that say, then if Fanatic has 10 or fewer HP, do something in addition to the normal. And usually it takes a while to get a Fanatic down, because she starts off with a pretty healthy amount of hit points, and getting her down to 10 is a like last resort thing. This version starts in last resort mode, and you're able to like deal with things right off the bat, which is just super strong, and she's just able to dish out so much damage. And then the ability to summon relics with this, you can summon things like the Rosary, and then you can constantly be using powers to heal yourself, plus with this card that lets you use 2 powers. If you play this one shot, you can use the Rosary and the Absolution in the same turn, plus an additional power, so that's 3 total powers. You're able to constantly be regaining 5 health, dishing out a bunch of damage, and whatever else you want to do for powers. So really strong, just such a powerful unit. It was a lot of fun to play, and I think most of the time it's going to work out really well, just how strong her deck is when she's under 10 HP. As long as she doesn't go down on the first villain turn, first or second villain turn, don't just take her out immediately. She is going to be a force to be reckoned with Haunted Fanatic. Next up is Werewolf Haka. This actually sets Haka as a werewolf target, which is significant on the Apex fight. So pay attention to the fact that he is now labeled as a werewolf and is involved in some of the HP tracking on that fight. This is the mightiest. If Haka is the hero target with the highest HP, which shouldn't be hard with 33, draw 3 cards. Otherwise, summon a Haka card. Summoning a Haka, you can get the Haka card that you want. That's really strong. Otherwise, you draw a bunch of cards and prep up. Really cool. If he's not currently the strongest Haka, he will make himself the strongest, which plays very similar to Apex, which is constantly, if he's not the strongest werewolf, he will make himself the strongest werewolf real quick. So really good homage there. Synergy between these 2 units, and pretty cool. On his flip side, he goes full on werewolf, lost to the hunt. One hero takes their power phase, destroy an environment card, or destroy a low HP target, 3 or fewer. Pretty cool. Not the strongest end phase, but still pretty useful. That is going to be how Werewolf Haka works. Summoning Hakas is going to be super strong with this guy. Again, if you're not familiar with Haka, if you just started with Rook City Renegades, or you're just getting into this, several of Haka's abilities are called Hakas. So they are going to be able to give him boosts. Let's see, there you go, Haka of Battle. So this is an ongoing Haka. +1 damage dealt by Haka all the time. So again, that lets you summon it, putting it into play. Using that power, he then gets +1. Start phase, discard any number of cards. Haka deals 1 target X melee damage, where X is the number of cards discarded this way +2. Then destroy this card. Hakas are all about that. It allows you to discard cards and then react to the cards that you discarded, and that happens at the start of your next phase. So he lets out a shout, gets a boost this phase, and then next turn gets to do something kind of cool with the cards in his hand. There are several of the Hakas. Haka Recovery is going to be -1 damage taken, and then the same thing but healing. And there should be a couple more Hakas, at least one more Haka. Battle, there's Haka of Frenzy, so your damage is irreducible. Discarding number of cards, deal X targets, so this makes it AoE instead of single target like Haka of Battle. You can do a big AoE smash with that. They still have Haka of Shielding. I've only played this deck once. They don't. Alright, so there's just the 3 Hakas now. So either you are going to be doing AoE damage with Haka, you're going to be smashing one single target, or you're going to be doing some recovery using those Hakas. Otherwise, you're going to be just getting a bunch of cards if you're not the highest health target. Setting up those early Hakas with this power is really crucial, especially if you don't pick them up. So this Haka can get it set up really fast and stay the mightiest on the board. Next up, we got Backdraft Raw. So this guy is a absolute beast, spitting out fire damage. Fight fire with fire says Raw deals 4 targets, 1 fire damage each, and a hero may draw a card. This is just going to be dishing out AoE damage, and if you're not up against a boss that's likely going to have 4 targets, so you're not fighting like the organization or something, you're going to be blasting your friends with that 1 fire damage, and you need to make sure to mitigate that. This can be really potent with absolute 0 on the field. If you're powering up your fire damage and blasting him, he could be doing out even more cold damage or healing himself. Lots of options like that. So lots of cool synergies that he can have with his units, depending on if those units are able to work with taking that extra fire damage it's going to deal. On the backside, he is Burning Regret, so he's burnt out, and you can see all this destruction around him from damage that he dealt himself, and then he's cleaning up the mess afterwards. So one hero can take their play phase, one hero target regains 2 HP, recovering from damage that he probably dealt to them, and one hero target may discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards are the options. So kind of cool thematic. He goes into a regret mode and helps out his allies. When he's in this mode, he doesn't care. He's just hurling out fireballs. So the thing about that power is it's nice to have a power on Raw. I believe in his deck, Ignite gives him a power, but there's not a lot else. And it's mostly one-shots that he's going to be dishing out, so having the option to have some more powers that aren't just like, destroy this card. Like, when this card is destroyed, it does extra things, but you have to destroy this card, and then you lose some of its effects. So having extra powers to use is nice, as although there are a lot of Ignites, it's a limited, and you can't use that power multiple times. So it feels alright to have this nice AoE power, and it's always good on some bosses to have AoEs, especially on things like the Organization, where you're just constantly dealing with baddies. So this power comes with some fun and can be really powerful with Mentor Night Mist, who can reduce the damage that he's dealing to your friends while increasing the damage he deals to enemies. So Backdraft Raw really needs your team to work together with him, but he's pretty cool and adds another layer of complexity to Raw. Scavenger Unity is actually a really sweet alternate to Unity. Despite a pretty low health pool at 23, she ends up being a real force on the field because of this ability, One's Man's Trash. You may play one mechanical golem card or item card from your trash. So this allows you to return golems or return items that were destroyed throughout the game, bringing them back into the play. So if something got blown up, she can bring it back, and that's just so strong. If you do not, so if you choose not to, you can draw 2 cards and then discard a card. That can let you discard a golem from your hand right away, and then next turn you could use that power to play that golem from the field, or into the field. This works super well with Stealthbot, her power in general, because Stealthbot keeps redirecting damage to itself, dying, and then she can bring it back, and that's just so strong in a rotational setup. Or also Coldbot. You can constantly be dealing damage to it, so it pulses out its cold damage to enemies, and then when it dies, you can just bring it back next turn. So the constant target control and regeneration that Scavenger Unity brings to the field is pretty much unparalleled. All tinkered out, when she's all burnt out and being chased by a giant Tinker T-Rex, one hero may take their power phase, reveal and replace the top card of one non-hero deck, or destroy one target with 2 or fewer HP. Not a super strong combination of end phase powers. 2 or fewer HP is usually not very many targets, and then reveal and replace isn't always strong unless somebody can control that later. And it's a non-hero deck, so it could only be the environment or the boss, so that's also a thing to note. Not super strong when knocked out, so you don't really want her knocked out. You want to keep her in the fray and keep her returning her golems into play. So just to take a look at the deck and how that goes along with that, if your platform bots or whatnot get destroyed, she can bring them back. They're great amounts of damage, and constantly reducing damage taken to themselves means they tend to stay up a little bit longer. But the biggest one is going to be, of course, the Stealth Bot. I think it might be on this side, based on the fact that we played it last time. Yes, okay, so Stealth Bot there. -1 damage dealt to this card. Whenever Unity or Mechanical Golem would be dealt damage, you may redirect it to this card. It only has 5 health, but you can keep bringing it back, and then it can soak up quite a bit of damage, especially if it's like 1 or 2 damage going out. The 5 health ±1 is huge. You can also, of course, be bringing back Cryobots, and as I said, when this target is dealt fire damage, it deals 1 target that much cold damage. So you can then blast this with characters like Raw or whatnot to have additional damage going out with some of that AoE. So some cool options there. Of course, also B-Bots. If you need to constantly be destroying ongoing cards, you can blow up B-Bots with their 1 HP, bring them back, destroy another ongoing. Cool stuff like that. They removed the ability for this to destroy environments, so now it's just ongoing, so it's a little bit weaker, but still pretty cool. And this Scavenger Unity ends up really helping the team out, especially protecting low health targets. If you have that Haunted Fanatic from earlier, and you're playing Scavenger Unity, she can keep out targets that have lower HP than Fanatic, so Fanatic doesn't just get burnt out early in the game. So that's how Scavenger Unity is going to work. Last one up is Detective Wraith. I really love the design there with the looking through her red goggles, inspecting bullet casings, being very Detective Batman-y. I don't know the V-cut is necessary there. Could just be a full jumpsuit, but, you know, whatever. Sleuth, their power is reveal the top card of one deck. You may replace that card, bury that card, or play that card, which can be really strong. If you're controlling the enemy deck, burying cards you don't want to have come out, or if you're helping allies out, if you know what's on top of a deck, you could then play that card. This again works with the knocked out Unity, who could check the boss deck, see if it's about to play a dangerous card. If it is, Detective Wraith can get rid of that card without having to waste that potential necessarily, so that's pretty cool. On the backside there, when she's taken out, some stones better left unturned, so she revealed something that then got her in trouble. One hero takes her draw phase, discard the top card of one deck, or discover one target from the villain deck, set that target to 1 HP. That is huge. If you can pull this off against like Gloomweaver and have one of his relics come out, and then set it to 1 HP and blow it up, that would be massive. So that's a really cool combination there, and makes Detective Wraith kind of powerful on some bosses that have high health targets in there. So the reveal replace is really just going to be controlling other people's deck. It doesn't interact too much with her deck, as there's not too many times I would reveal a card from her deck and play it, unless she's not set up, and there's nobody else on the field that requires more setup. Wraith sets up really easily and is really good at setting herself up, so using this power on herself probably isn't ideal, and this is more of a use on your friends. Alright, so those are the 6 alternate cards that came with Rook City Renegades for the original characters from Definitive Edition. Let me know what you guys think of each of these different alternates. I really think Haunted Fanatic is super strong, and Scavenger Unity is probably better than most of the other Unities. The other ones I'm not 100% convinced on, but they're still definitely decent. I don't think any of these ones are bad. There's not one where I'm like, that's a real disappointment. But they're just not necessarily my style in play, although I guess Detective Wraith is, especially if we got a little bit more other characters that could do some control. So that one's also pretty cool, but I think Haunted Fanatic probably the strongest. Let me know what you think, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.